Hi Shogi fans, we've got another Shogi openings video here, and in this video I'll be talking about static rook versus ranging rook opening. And what we're going to do in this video, we're going to take a look at how we can get to the position where black prepares a rapid attack deployment, especially silver on the left to 5g strategy, against white's 4th file rook defense, especially where white uses Mino castle. We call it 4th file Mino for short. And this is going to be my first video that I do on ranging rook strategy, so I'm going to be talking about some basic concept of ranging rook defense. Alright, now the starting moves are pawn to 7f, and then white will play pawn to 3d, and black goes for static rook. And here, if white is going to play 4th file rook, he will close his bishop's diagonal by pawn to 4d. The reason is, when you're playing 4th file rook, if your opponent pushes the rook file pawn, although he's not going to do it so early, but as the game goes, your opponent will push this rook file pawn, and you're going to have to defend that square by a bishop when you're playing 4th file rook. So if this bishop file was open, static rook can make a bishop trade and break the 2nd file like that. So basically that's why 4th file rook doesn't like to make a bishop exchange. So here, since white is going to play 4th file rook, he closes his bishop's diagonal. And to close his bishop's diagonal, it means he's playing a defensive strategy, and the static rook side will have the initiative in the game, trying to open fire and attack. So because of that, 4th file rook is originally a defensive strategy. Well, it's not always the case in the latest Shogi strategies, but original concept of it is a defensive strategy. And because of that, basically 4th file rook is a strategy for white, because it sounds a bit pointless for black to use a defensive strategy when black doesn't want a repetition draw. So although it's not always the case, I'm going to talk about the joseikis where black is playing static rook and white is playing 4th file rook, as you see on the screen. Now in the 5th move, black doesn't push the rook pawn immediately here, because that will give white an opportunity to play opposing rook. Black has no reason to give that opportunity to white, so he doesn't push the rook pawn yet. Usually moves the silver to 4h, and white has an option of just moving the silver here, not showing his strategy yet. But let's say he just showed his intention to play the 4th file rook. So rook to 4b, and if your opponent is playing 4th file rook, basically you should push the 5th file pawn, making a developing way to the silvers, and a way to protect this square against rook's attack, or even go ahead and attack in the 3rd file. And moving orders from here can be arbitrary. It really doesn't matter. You don't have to push the pawn here. You can also immediately go for castling, or now you can push the rook file pawn like that. You can do it as you want. But let's say you push the 5th file pawn anyway. Now from here, the white's moving order from here is not the latest joseiki order, because if I just show you the latest moving order here, it's going to just make you confused. So instead, I'll show you an example of an old joseiki first, and then show you the latest one. So in old joseiki, one option for white is just go for castling, and black king goes for castle to king 7b, and king 7h, and king 8b, and then gold on right to 5h. Now black's king is in a boat castle, and at this position, white has an option of going for anaguma, like that. But let's not go into that. What I'm going to show you here is Mino castle. So he moves the silver to 7b, and then let's say black pushed the 3rd file pawn, and silver to 3b. The moving order doesn't have to be so precise here. Let's say black pushed the rook file pawn here. White has to protect the 2nd file by the bishop, and then black moves the silver to 6h, an important move for silver on the left to 5g strategy. Now usually after white's king is castled in Mino castle, white will open this edge pawn to 9d, making escaping route for the king. And if white does so, Usually black pushes the edge file 2 to 9f. If black doesn't immediately push the edge pawn, white will have an option of keep pushing the pawn like that, taking out the possibility for black to push the edge file pawn anymore. But actually it's not so simple. Pushing the edge file pawn 2 steps like this can be sometimes just a waste of moves if black made a really fast attack. But usually black will immediately push the edge file pawn 2. And it's also possible that black pushes the edge pawn first and then white pushes back. It doesn't really matter. And you know, edge file pawn structure is one of the very difficult things in Shogi, because it makes a lot of differences to Shogi strategies, because black can start a battle with the edge file's pawn pushed like that, but also black can choose not to wait for it and maybe open fire without the edge pawn pushed. So even the main attacking procedure is the same, we have many variations for it where the edge pawn structures are different, because you see, if you look at the 9th file pawn, actually there are 6 possible structures. This is 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. 6 patterns on the left, and the same thing can be said on the right edge. So that means we have 6 times 6, 36 patterns of edge pawn structure. So it's really complicating. Now, what differences does edge pawns make? Well, basically, it makes a king's escaping route for one. But here, white also has a bad side about this, because now black can have an opportunity to make an edge attack like this. And if the edge pawns are not pushed, both players have an opportunity to drop a piece to the edge file, for instance, like this. And in the right edge, you see white's bishop can go to here. But if you push the edge file pawns, both players cannot do those kind of things anymore. Alright, but anyway, let's say both players have pushed the 9th file pawn and take a look at the joseki, because that's mostly the case. Now here, white finishes up his castle, and then black moves his left silver to 5g. Now this is the basic position of black's rapid attack strategy called silver left to 5g rapid attack. Now basic idea of this strategy is to try to attack the 3rd file, which is white's bishop's weak point, and also the 2nd file with the help of this silver. And on the other hand, 4th file rook's idea is to suddenly open this 4th file pawn when black started attack, like this, and try to bring the game into a full-scale battle, exchange the bishops, and attacking on 4th file. Or alternatively, he tries to move the rook to the file that is being attacked and make a counter-attack. And if white succeeds in making the game into a full-scale battle, he can make it a good situation for him, where this difference in the hardness of the castles really matters. You see, white's castle is clearly harder than black's. Alright, and now, at this basic position, white basically has 4 candidate moves here. One is pushing the 5th file pawn, and also pushing the 6th file pawn. And he can also develop the silver to 4c, and also pretty interesting move, lands to 1b. And we're going to take a look at what happens after each of these candidate moves in my other videos. Okay, so now that I have showed you the moving order of an old joseki, I'm going to show you the latest one here. It's called Fuji's system, which is a new strategy played by the 4th file rook side. In the latest shogi, static rook's rapid attack against 4th file rook thought to be not so good, because usually the ranger rook side deliberately managed to bring the game into a full-scale battle, and it becomes a tough position for static rook because his castle, both castle, is too weak. So in latest shogi, black rather prefers to castle the king in harder castles like this, left hand Mino, or an even harder one, right, Anaguma. And if static rook can castle in Anaguma, it's gonna be a tough situation for ranging rook. So ranging rook size Fuji's system is designed to prevent the opponent from making an Anaguma castle. So let's take a look at how it goes. From the initial position, the first several moves are the same. And here, let's say black immediately goes for castling. And what Fuji's system does is create a Mino castle without moving the king, like this. And then he pushes the edge file pawn very early, and what he's doing here is asking the static rook side, are you going for Anaguma or not? And if static rook pushes the pawn, he says, no, I'm not. I'm gonna castle in both castle, or maybe a Mino or silver crown. But here, static rook can keep the edge pawn like that and make different moves, such as pawn to 5f. So this means static rook is answering, yes, maybe. I'm considering making Anaguma. But he doesn't clearly make the decision yet. And usually, white now play the silver to 3b. And black doesn't push the edge file pawn yet. He keeps castling, making a boat castle. Now here, most popular move today is moving the silver to 4c. But let's not go into that for now. It will be different from the main purpose of this video. And he can also push the edge file pawn here. Well, it's one option. But for now, let's say he moves the gold to 5b, which is also one of the options in Fuji's system. Now, the concept of Fuji's system is that if static rook goes for Anaguma, like this, he will develop the knight like this, and then opens the bishop's diagonal, and at the moment black went for the Anaguma, he suddenly attacks like that. Also making use of these pieces, and he keeps the king in 5a. When he makes this kind of attack, the king is safer here than when it's in the Mino castle. So let's go back to this position where white moved the gold. Now what we're focusing today is a rapid attack made by static rook. So now black's gonna make a preparation for rapid attack. Now there are 3 moves that can be assigned that shows your intention to play rapid attack, which are pushing back the edge file pawn, which means you're not going for Anaguma, and also pushing the third file pawn, which means you're going to attack the bishop's head and make a rapid attack, and also moving the left silver to 6h, which means you're making a rapid attack by the left silver. So let's say you play one of them, say the edge pawn. Now once white sees that black is going to play rapid attack, he immediately castles his king into the Mino castle, which is already built for him, like that. And let's say you push the rook file pawn here, bishop defense, and silver to 6h, the king castles, and look at this. It has finally come to exactly the same position I've shown. So anyway, try to remember this position as the basic position of a rapid attack strategy against 4th file Mino defense. Alright, this video might have been a bit difficult one, but I hope it's been a help, and I'll see you next time.